Howdy guys, AutoEdits Jason here, and today in the garage you've caught us at the beginning of a video series on what it's going to take to stuff 1-ton axles under this 2016 Jeep Wrangler JKU. And this is my buddy's Jeep. This started life as a Willys edition, so no lockers, smaller axles, and we're going big on this thing. And I thought this would be kind of a fun way to go about what it's going to take and break out these videos, a short series of videos on the big systems that are involved in doing this kind of an upgrade. Now this isn't a low-end junkyard upgrade. This is all good thought out systems, and I thought I'd break it out into the main categories. So we're going to start this one with the axles and suspension, move on to shocks, drive shafts, and then we're going to do hydraulic ram assist steering. So we're going to have some fun with that. But today, let's bring you on in and I'll show you what we have as a foundation for this project. So it was a no-brainer to get this video started off with the foundation of the entire build, and that's the MetalCloak LongArm lock and load suspension and the Dynatrac Hardcore 6060 kit of axles. Now, this is going to be a really interesting build for me because this is my buddy's Jeep. You know, he's been a good friend of mine, and you know, it's just something that I don't know. It just seems like the right thing to do right now. He's been a righteous dude for me. He's got a little girl and a wife that I kind of want them to get out on the trails some more, and this is a step in that direction. And now, so this isn't just like, you know, a thrown together thing. We're gonna work together. It's gonna be a growing experience because I'm gonna recommend stuff. He's gonna be particular about some things that have worked for him, and that's what he likes. And so we're gonna try to meet in the middle. And some things I recommend, and some things I'm gonna try to just, that he likes, I'm gonna make work. So, a good example of that. I just finished installing the MetalCloak LongArm 4.5-inch lift kit with the lock and load. Basically the exact same lift and suspension system that I really wanted to see on his Jeep. I can't even express yet how good that is around town and on the road. I've put about 800, 900 miles on it, and I just love it. I just look for excuses to drive the Jeep. I've driven it on the 405 freeway, a couple 100-mile round trip, you know, just running around LA doing work. And it's phenomenal. My Jeep drives better than most cars on rough city roads and goes down the highway at 85 miles an hour, like better than I couldn't have even expected to be that good. So that's the reason I went with that. So what we did there, you know, just obviously with the long arms in the front, I did the same thing. Watch that video. I'm not going to do a video on that installing this because I just did that video. And then Joe ordered the Dynatrac Hardcore 6060. So that's a Dana 60 front, Dana 60 rear. Technically, I know, I'm learning this. I'm new to the big axle game. So a Dana 60 in the rear does not qualify as a 1-ton, so it's not technically 1 tons on this Jeep, but it kind of is. Dynatrac did a really good thing with this kit. Spoiler alert, they put 1-ton outers, so it's got a Dana 60 center basically in the rear, and then 1-ton outers, so it's super strong. They built them to the width of the JK, so these are 68.5-inch length axles, so it's just much friendlier to make this fit. If anybody ever says this is just a bolt-in thing, technically, but this is a lot of work. It's easy to underestimate this. Like Joe and I had this kind of kooky, like we were crazy to think that, oh, he'll come down, we'll spend 3-4 days, we'll have this whole thing swapped out and done, and oh my gosh, that's crazy. It takes 2 to 3 days to do the suspension. It took me 2 days to swing these axles underneath here, and as you guys know, I'm very meticulous about my measurements, so it takes me a full day to get axles and suspension arms measured. This thing is so square right now already, and we haven't even gotten a line, and that's just what I do. So take that time now to make sure you get your cross measurements, everything good. I put a lot of caster into this thing because I put 6 degrees into my Jeep, and that's part of why it just drives so nice down the road. So there's a lot of time that you just lose. It's a lot of work, and this is heavier. Like I messed up my back in the initial part of this, and I'm still kind of healing from that. So those are some real things when you're dealing with heavier products. Like at the beginning of my axle, when I did my Ultimate Dana 44 axle install, I actually lifted the housing up and was able to move it. That isn't gonna happen here. I use an engine hoist, and it actually stresses my engine hoist to move this axle around. So that's one of the considerations here. You're going from a 150-pound Ultimate Dana 44 axle to 600-700 pounds here. So it's a substantial increase in unsprung weight. So I'm curious to see if I can impose my will on this thing and make it drive nice, or what it's even gonna drive like. You know, I've driven a couple of Jeeps on tons and they weren't nice. They weren't really, definitely weren't as fun as my Jeep is around town. And that's kind of the goal of why I'm trying to keep my Jeep nimble, yet still capable enough. So you have to build your Jeep to your end goal. And what my buddy Joe wants here is to build a Jeep with just rock solid peace of mind that he could drive it. His thing is to do Jeepers Jamboree, and he likes to take his wife, and I'm hoping to, you know, I think about that. I want to get him and his wife and his cute little daughter out on the trails in this thing. And so he just wants that peace of mind. He doesn't want to be concerned about having to drive carefully and preserve axles and that. He wants to just bash it. So what we have here is in the Dynatrac 6060 Hardcore kit, the front axle is a Dana 60 with their custom center section, and it's actually a really cool unit. It's a nodular iron thing that's been shaped and formed, and it has a 9 3/4 inch ring gear. That's where your strength comes in. That's how you add strength. 35 spline axles, huge pinion gear, ring gear, pardon me. And that is where all that reliability and strength comes in. Then dial into that giant steering knuckles. This right here, peace of mind. You don't have that unit bearing like you would have on the Dana 44s. So you have one-ton truck equipment here. And then that's another thing I kind of like about the Dynatrac kit. It comes with these brakes. Now I'm curious to see, this is F350 truck brakes, giant 2-piston calipers, 13-inch rotors. So this heavy equipment stuff is all new territory for me, but I'm not afraid. This is all just, you know, stuff that you have to learn, and then you just deal with it as you encounter the stuff. Part of the working with Joe on some of the things that he has already put on here and that he likes is these TerraFlex speed bumps here. He really likes those things. And I'm not sure I like these, but we're gonna work with it, and I'm gonna start with the setup now, because what I don't like about them is that they interrupt your shock rates right away, because you're now just incorporating whatever that charge is now incorporated in the suspension rebound and dampening forces, because it's now interfering in that. Now, yes, sure, it helps your bottoming out, but we'll see. We'll get that dialed in. It's something he likes. He wants them there. I'll see if I can make it work. I'll learn about them. I have an exciting shock upgrade that I'm going to be doing on this. I'm going to be running the Beltec high performance shocks on here with true double adjustable. Really excited about putting those on there. I would have run those on my Jeep if I wasn't going for maximum articulation on my Jeep, and that's what the 6-packs offer, but no adjustability. These Beltec shocks, I'm excited. They get their own video. That's the next video when we install those. So stay tuned for that. If for nothing else, that's a rad product that's brand new to the market. So excited for that. And that was the thing when I test drove this thing. My impression was this Jeep feels dead. The suspension, the steering, everything was just really tight and dead, and it was fine, but it just night and day difference personality-wise from my Jeep when it was similarly equipped. And I think it's the combination of things like that, and plus when I took his Jeep apart, there was a few bolts so over-tightened on the suspension, plus I found that many of the suspension bolts on his Jeep had been tightened at full droop. So they installed all the suspension, tightened them down, over-tightened them, and then just sat it on the ground. That is a huge no-no. You weight the suspension, then you tighten all your suspension bushings. It happens all the time, I get it, but boy, that's one of those things. If I could just relay that to you guys, don't do that. There were suspension bushings that were just junk and roached because of those things. So I'm doing a lot of that stuff. We're gonna make this thing great. I mean, that's just, like I say, I keep picturing him, his daughter, and his wife, hopefully getting them out on the trail and enjoying this thing and having it just drive so good, even with all this new stuff under here. Another thing I like about the Dynatrac kit is that they've done some cool little things to accommodate getting these onto a JK. If you notice, I actually ran I took the stock wheel speed sensors off the axles that were on this Jeep, and they machined a little spacer in here that I can mount these, and they have a little reluctant ring, reluctor ring inside the hub here. So all of that stuff should just jibe with the stock computer, which is really cool. That's kind of leans more towards that air quote bolt in form and function. So I really like some of those things that were really well thought out on this. And again, I know the suspension is going to be great. I'm going to get it dialed for them. I haven't been able to go out and do a test and tune in my Jeep because I'm kind of digging in on this, and now I'm trying to heal my back from hucking these axles around. But so that's the front. Let me take you to the rear, and I'll show you some of the fun stuff that's going on back there already and tell you about the rear 60 inside this thing. All right, in the rear, we're gonna start with the MetalCloak DB3 drop bracket and the typical game changer control arms. A huge fan of the Duroflex bushings on the MetalCloak stuff. The DB3 brackets, this is something I didn't know when I installed those. I just thought DB3 just meant drop bracket by 3 inches. But here's something that I've learned since then that I've been able to put into effect, and I can't wait to share with you guys some of the off-road test and tune stuff. I haven't even got to do it, but there's a hill down the street for me where one of the things that these do is they help counter, they have an anti-squat geometry to them. So when you're climbing something gnarly and you hit the gas, especially in a manual transmission Jeep like mine, your Jeep tends to want to squat to climb. These have built-in geometry here that help give anti-squat. It's like drag race terminology where you build that into your vehicle, and I'm telling you, I was able to just park it on a very steep incline, let the clutch out and climb it, and the Jeep just felt so relaxed and comfortable doing it. So big deal here. This is not just a drop bracket. I was really thrilled to find that not only does it just give you that long arm geometry, it corrects other things that you don't get out of just long arms. So this is a really cool feature here. And I'm also running the 4.5-inch true dual rate springs from MetalCloak on this thing as well. Super stoked on those, the difference between those. And he had a Mopar 4.5-inch lift with those springs back here. They had the Beehive, those thinner coiled Beehive springs. These are going to be a huge improvement right there. I remember mentioning to you the TerraFlex speed bumps on the front, going to run them back here as well. And you can see one of the things that I'm concerned about on this is that they're just going to kill some up travel for that perceived comfort when you bottom out. Like me, I run the MetalCloak, the cushy bumpers here, and then the bump stop spacers down here, and I've been thrilled with it. I mean, I bottomed it. I drive my Jeep. If you guys watch the Baja one, watch that one, you'll see. But we're gonna run this, you know, he likes them, we'll make it work, right? So that's the plan here. Besides that, some of the up travel gets sacrificed by having a giant Dana 60 housing in there. So I'm learning all of that stuff as we go. So I'm gonna do that. If you notice, I pulled the rear sway bar off because that front sway bar is so stiff that we're not even gonna need that back here. And besides that, when you disconnect that, you want this thing to articulate anyway. And since we're gonna lose so much up travel by just going this way, I'm gonna try to maximize that, and that's just my gut telling me that right now. We may dial that back in and put a sway bar back on here. So we'll see. But this is part of the fun of doing a project like this, is meeting in the middle and making it work. And then obviously we'll get the shocks stuffed in here, the Beltec shocks stuffed in here for the next video. Brakes back here, same thing with the Dana 60, with the D60 from Dynatrac, bigger brakes. If you notice, these flash rusted. I'm not sure if I should be getting one. I'm gonna wire wheel them before we actually put it in service, but I'm not sure about that. I actually noticed a few things. When I pulled these out of the crate, they say that they come shipped with oil. This doesn't have oil in it, and it doesn't even have the fill plug is actually just missing and there's no oil in it, and these flash rusted. So I'm not sure exactly what to think about that. It may be worth a phone call to the boys at Dynatrac to see about getting some answers on that. Not real thrilled about that, but otherwise, what I do like about this thing is that I'm learning where the strength is, and this is helping me because, you know, the last part of the equation on my Jeep, this is really a fun project because I get to really put my hands on some of these parts here and see the strength and where the weight is and where the strength is versus the weight. what Dynatrac has done here is they put 1-ton outers on here. So you have a Dana 60 center, you have these insanely strong axle tubes, and then you have 1-ton full float outers out here. So and what that means is that you now have an axle shaft that goes into the center section and then terminates here at the hub. And unlike on a Dana 44, where if you were to break an axle shaft, you literally, your wheel falls off, you're done. If you break an axle shaft on this, you literally just lose drive to this wheel. This thing operates fine. So that's a real big plus to having this level of strength and build out here. Again, all of this comes with just having to make room and add weight to your vehicle, but peace of mind means strength, strength means weight. But this is the rear end. It's pretty dialed. Now, Joe ordered his axle set with Eaton E-lockers with 513 gears. And I'm not gonna tell you the size tire until we do that video. I'm gonna save that video for last, when we actually mount up tires and get them on here. You're gonna be shocked at the size tires that we're gonna be running on this thing. But hey, again, this has gotta fit his lifestyle. But that's kind of nice. So I'll be able to just wire, I'm just gonna swap plugs on this and be able to wire this right into, he has a Switch Pros switch up there already. So there's a wire and a relay ready. I'll just splice in the Eaton E-locker connector for that. That'll be a piece of cake. A couple other quick things. These come with 1350 U-joint flanges at both axles. So I will be ordering Tom Woods drive shafts, and I've actually learned, I've already been on the website to learn how to do that. So that'll be its own video on how to pick flanges and get measurements and do that. So, because a lot of people just, you get kind of confused on what to do. It's really straightforward. Website makes it easy, but I'm gonna walk you through that, and then we'll get those ordered up, and those should be here middle of next week. So that's all this stuff is in motion. So there you have it, my buddy Joe's Jeep getting 1-tons and all of the systems associated with that. Stick around, these videos should come pretty fast because I got all the technically heavy lifting done, and then I'll just kind of follow these up with the next few systems and how that goes and the installs on those, and we'll get this thing on the trail and we'll see what a 1-ton Jeep drives like. This is all new for me, so hopefully that finds the new Jeeper that is interested in that and what it might entail. It's more than you think, but it's definitely doable. If I'm doing it right here in my garage, you can too maybe. So thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe this video, share it with a friend if you don't mind, and until next time, enjoy your drive. I got a lot of work to do.